"It hurts down there," she whispered. The rancher gazed, and did the unthinkable cowboy stories. Emma stepped out of the old pickup truck, her suitcase bouncing on the gravel road as she followed the narrow path toward the farmhouse. She had never seen anything like this before, so much open space, so much land, and not a single neighbor in sight for miles. Her heart raced with excitement, but there was also a flicker of nervousness. She had never worked on a ranch, and she knew that life here would be very different from the small town she had left behind. Jackson was standing near the fence, leaning against a post as he watched the sun rise. The ranch had been in his family for generations, and he knew every inch of the land like the back of his hand. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had the kind of quiet confidence that came from years of hard work. His weathered face and calloused hands told a story of a life spent outdoors, working under the sun, and facing challenges head-on. He noticed the new arrival immediately, Emma, with her wide eyes and hesitant steps, carrying her bag as if it weighed more than she expected. "Morning," he called out, his voice low but steady. There was a rough warmth in it that seemed to suit the ranch perfectly. "Good morning," Emma replied, a little breathless from the climb up the hill to the farmhouse. She smiled nervously, unsure how much to say or how much to ask. Jackson nodded toward the house. "You must be Emma. I'm Jackson. Welcome to the ranch. Let me show you around before the day gets too hot." The farmhouse itself was modest but sturdy, with a wide porch and steps leading up to the front door. It looked like it had weathered many storms but stood proud and strong. As they walked, Jackson began explaining the daily routine. "You'll start with feeding the animals, checking on the horses, and making sure the fences are in good shape. It's hard work, but it keeps the ranch running." Emma had never been so close to horses before, and she felt a mixture of awe and fear. The animals were huge and strong, yet there was a calmness in their eyes that made her feel welcome. Jackson guided her through the feeding process, showing her how to measure the grain and scatter it evenly in the troughs. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she held the heavy buckets, but Jackson's calm presence helped her relax. "You'll get used to it," he said, noticing her hesitation. "At first it feels awkward, but soon it becomes natural." She slipped once, almost falling into the mud, and Jackson's hand shot out instinctively to steady her. "Careful," he warned gently. "This ground isn't always friendly." Her arms ached from carrying buckets and pushing gates. Her back protested from bending and lifting, and the heat made her feel dizzy. She paused near the barn, wiping sweat from her forehead and taking deep breaths. Jackson watched her quietly. He had seen many young people arrive at the ranch thinking they could handle the work, only to realize it was much harder than they imagined. But he sensed that Emma was different. There was determination in her eyes, a spark that suggested she wouldn't give up easily. "You're doing fine," he said finally, breaking the silence. "Everyone struggles at first. Even me, when I was your age, I thought I could do everything perfectly on the first day. I just hope I don't mess anything up." Jackson guided her step by step, correcting her gently when she made mistakes and praising her when she did something right. By the time they stopped for a late breakfast, Emma felt exhausted but accomplished. They sat on the porch of the farmhouse, eating simple food, fresh bread, eggs, and fruit. The breeze carried the scent of the fields, and the distant sound of cows mooing and horses neighing created a peaceful rhythm. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a sense of belonging she hadn't expected. "Ranch life is different," Jackson said, breaking the comfortable silence. "It's hard, sometimes lonely, but it teaches you things you can't learn anywhere else. You'll see what I mean in the days to come." Emma was assigned to help with the cattle, checking their health and making sure they had enough water. It was more difficult than she expected. The cattle were large and unpredictable, and guiding them through the pens required skill and patience. Emma struggled at first, her hands slipping as she tried to open gates and push the animals in the right direction. Jackson stayed close, offering guidance and stepping in only when necessary. By mid-afternoon, Emma's body was screaming with fatigue. Her arms were sore, her legs ached, and a dull pain had started in her side from a small fall earlier. She tried to ignore it, not wanting to show weakness in front of Jackson, but the discomfort grew steadily. She paused, leaning against a fence post, breathing heavily. Jackson noticed immediately. He approached quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" he asked. Emma shook her head slightly, embarrassed. "It's nothing," she whispered. I think I need a moment." "You'll get stronger with each day." As the afternoon sun began to dip toward the horizon, they started finishing the day's work. Emma helped Jackson repair a broken fence, hammering nails and lifting wooden planks under his watchful eye. Despite her aching muscles, she felt a sense of pride in what she accomplished. The fence was sturdy and secure, a tangible result of her effort and perseverance. By the time they returned to the farmhouse, the sky had turned a deep orange and the first stars were beginning to appear. Emma's exhaustion was total, but it was mixed with satisfaction. She had faced the challenges of the day, learned new skills, and survived the physical demands of the ranch. Jackson offered her a glass of water and a simple smile. "You did well today. First days are always the hardest. Tomorrow will be easier, and you'll get better every day." That night, as she lay in the small guest room, listening to the sounds of the ranch, the lowing of cows, the creaking of the barn doors, the distant hoot of an owl, she reflected on her first day. It had been hard, exhausting, and sometimes frightening, but it had also been thrilling and fulfilling. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more moments of doubt, and more physical strain. But she also knew that she had taken the first step into a new life, one full of possibilities, growth, and unexpected connections. Emma drifted off to sleep, her body sore but her spirit eager. The ranch had already begun to feel like a place where she belonged, a place where she could learn, grow, and face challenges head-on. And as the moon rose over the wide fields, Jackson looked out from the porch, quietly satisfied. He had seen many new arrivals struggle, but he sensed that Emma had something special, a determination and resilience that could carry her through anything the ranch life threw her way. The first day was over, but for Emma, it was only the beginning. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the ranch, spilling warm light across the open fields. Emma awoke feeling sore but ready to face the day. Her muscles complained when she moved, a reminder of the hard work from her first day, but there was also a sense of excitement deep inside her. Today, she would learn more, see more, and become more a part of this vast, untamed land. Breakfast was simple as always. Eggs, toast, and fresh fruit sat on the table. Jackson had already begun eating, quietly sipping his coffee as he watched the morning light stream through the kitchen window. Emma joined him, carefully setting down her plate, her mind already racing through the day ahead. "You slept well?" Jackson asked, his voice calm and steady. Emma nodded. "I did. My body is sore, but I feel ready." Today was about learning, not worrying about discomfort. Their first task was checking the cattle across the far pasture. The fields were larger than Emma had imagined, stretching out in every direction. A few cows grazed lazily, their movements slow and calm. Jackson handed Emma a notebook. "Take notes," he said. "Notice any signs of illness or injury. We can't afford to miss anything out here." Hours passed quickly, the two of them moving from one pasture to another, checking water sources, fences, and animal health. Emma struggled with some of the tasks. Handling the cattle was more difficult than she had imagined. A cow suddenly shifted direction, and she nearly tripped over a muddy patch. Jackson caught her hand just in time, steadying her. "Careful," he said quietly. "The cattle can be unpredictable, and the ground isn't always even. Take your time and don't rush." She paused, leaning against the rail and trying to ignore the discomfort. Jackson noticed immediately. "Emma," he said gently, "that looks like it's bothering you. We should take a closer look." Jackson examined the small wound carefully. "It's not serious," he said finally, "but you need to keep it clean. Infection can happen quickly out here." "It's part of working together." Emma and Jackson moved the cattle toward a shaded area near the creek so they could drink and cool off. Emma struggled with the gate, its rusty hinges making it difficult to open. She pulled with all her strength, feeling her arms shake. Jackson noticed and stepped in to help, guiding her hands and showing her the proper technique. "See," he said, "it's not just strength. You have to feel the motion and work with it." As the afternoon wore on, Emma began noticing more subtle things. The way cattle moved when they were uncomfortable, the way the wind shifted across the pasture, and the small signs that indicated when the land needed attention. Jackson observed quietly, allowing her to discover these details herself, only stepping in to explain when necessary. During a short break under the shade of a large oak tree, Emma sat on the grass, wiping sweat from her brow. Jackson handed her a bottle of water. "Drink," he said simply. "Hydration is important. There's so much to notice, so much to think about." She realized that Jackson's calm presence was more than guidance. It was experience, patience, and a quiet confidence that could only come from years of facing challenges head-on. As they returned to the stables in the late afternoon, Emma felt a dull ache growing in her side. She ignored it at first, focusing on finishing the tasks at hand. She groomed the horses, refilled the water troughs, and swept the floors. But the pain persisted, sharper with each movement. She tried to hide it, not wanting to slow the work or worry Jackson. Eventually, she paused, leaning against the stable door, her hand pressed to her side. Jackson noticed immediately, his eyes narrowing slightly in concern. "Emma," he asked softly, "does it hurt? We need to see if it's serious." "You're not alone." She realized that ranch work was not just about physical strength. It was also about listening to her body, asking for help when needed, and trusting those around her. The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. Emma rested in the shade while Jackson continued his work around the ranch, checking fences, refilling water troughs, and ensuring the animals were safe. Occasionally, he would come over to check on her, offering a kind word or a reassuring smile. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma reflected on the day. It had been challenging, exhausting, and sometimes painful, but it had also been rewarding. She had learned so much, not just about ranch work, but about patience, perseverance, and trust. Dinner was quiet and simple. Emma ate slowly, savoring the food and the calm atmosphere of the farmhouse. Jackson talked occasionally about the ranch, sharing stories of past seasons, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned. Emma listened intently, feeling a growing connection not just to the ranch, but to Jackson himself. After dinner, they stepped outside to enjoy the evening air. The stars were bright and countless, spread across the dark sky like tiny jewels. The ranch was quiet now, the animals settled for the night, and the wind whispered through the trees. Jackson glanced at Emma. "You did well today," he said softly. "You faced the work, listened, learned, and didn't give up. That's more than many people manage." It was a land of challenges, growth, and unexpected lessons. She had faced pain, uncertainty, and exhaustion, but she had also experienced accomplishment, learning, and connection. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the ache in her side but also a sense of hope. She knew the days ahead would be just as difficult, perhaps even more so, but she also knew she had the resilience to face them. The ranch had begun to feel like home, and Jackson, with his quiet strength and careful guidance, had become a figure she trusted deeply. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and perhaps new surprises. But for now, Emma allowed herself to rest, grateful for the day, the ranch, and the sense of belonging she was beginning to feel. The morning air was crisp and full of life as Emma woke to the soft sound of birds singing. Her body still ached from the previous days, particularly the scrape on her side, but the pain was manageable. She felt stronger already, more aware of her surroundings, and more confident in her ability to handle the challenges of ranch life. The sun had just begun to rise, casting golden light across the fields, and Emma could hear the distant lowing of cattle as the ranch slowly came to life. Jackson was already outside, checking the fences near the eastern pasture. When he saw Emma step onto the porch, he nodded, a small smile of encouragement on his face. "Morning," he called out. "Ready for another day?" It's important to know their behavior and routines. You'll learn to read them, understand them, and care for them properly. They walked together to the stables, where several horses were already waiting. Some were calm and relaxed, while others pawed at the ground or shook their heads, restless and full of energy. Jackson explained the basics of grooming, feeding, and handling the animals. Emma followed his instructions carefully, brushing the horses' coats, checking their hooves, and preparing their feed. As the morning passed, Emma felt more in tune with the horses. She noticed how one of the younger animals, a spirited mare, responded to her voice, calming when she spoke softly. Jackson observed quietly, allowing her to learn through experience while providing guidance when necessary. By late morning, Emma began to feel a sharp discomfort near her side again. She tried to ignore it, focusing on the work at hand, but it was becoming harder to continue without some relief. She paused, leaning against the stable door, feeling embarrassed about asking for help again. Jackson noticed her hesitation and approached. "Emma, are you sure you're okay?" He realized that the situation required immediate attention, not just a simple cleaning. Though he was not a doctor, he had years of experience handling emergencies on the ranch and knew he could stabilize the problem if done correctly. Emma felt a mix of relief and nervousness. She trusted Jackson, but she was also aware of the seriousness of the situation. "I didn't think it was this bad," she admitted quietly. "You didn't do anything wrong," Jackson reassured her. "Injuries like this can happen, especially when you're not used to the work and the environment. The important thing is to take care of it now so it doesn't get worse." He explained each step, making sure Emma understood the importance of hygiene and proper care. His calm presence eased her anxiety, and she realized how much she valued his guidance and experience. Once the immediate care was done, Jackson helped her settle on a chair with a warm cloth on her side to reduce the discomfort. "Rest for a while," he said. "I'll handle some chores until you feel better." It was inspiring to see someone so skilled in the challenges of ranch life, and it strengthened her respect and trust for him. The afternoon passed slowly. Emma rested while Jackson continued his work outside. Occasionally, he would come back to check on her, bringing a glass of water or a small snack. Each time he did, he offered a reassuring smile, reminding her that she was not alone and that asking for help was not a weakness. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Jackson approached her with a plan. "We need to make sure this wound heals properly," he said. "I'll show you how to care for it over the next few days. You'll need to rest more, but you can still participate in lighter tasks." Emma would help with tasks that didn't require heavy lifting, such as feeding the animals, brushing the horses, and checking water troughs. Jackson would manage the more demanding chores, ensuring the ranch continued to run smoothly. As the evening approached, Emma began to notice small moments of beauty and calm on the ranch. The sky turned brilliant shades of orange and pink, the cattle settled in the fields, and the wind carried the scent of grass and earth. Even in the midst of work and challenges, the ranch offered moments of peace, reminding her why she had chosen to come here. Dinner was quiet but comforting. Emma ate slowly, reflecting on the day's events. She realized that she had learned more than just physical tasks. She had learned about patience, observation, and trust. Jackson shared a few stories about past seasons on the ranch, explaining how unexpected situations often tested both skill and patience. After dinner, they stepped outside to watch the stars appear in the clear night sky. The vast openness of the ranch made the stars shine brighter than Emma had ever seen. She felt a sense of calm, a connection to the land, and a growing appreciation for the quiet resilience required to live and work in such a place. Jackson glanced at her. "You handled today well," he said. "It's not easy to balance work, injuries, and learning all at once. Most people would give up." The ranch had already begun to feel like home, a place where challenges were met with patience, resilience, and support. She realized that growth often came from facing difficulties head-on, learning from them, and trusting those around her. That night, as she lay in bed listening to the sounds of the ranch, the distant calls of animals, the wind in the trees, and the creak of the farmhouse, Emma felt a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. She had faced another day of hard work, managed discomfort, and grown in confidence. Though the path ahead was uncertain, she felt ready to meet whatever challenges came next. The next morning, Emma awoke with a renewed sense of determination. She knew that the injury would take time to heal, but she also understood that every day brought new lessons, opportunities to learn, and chances to grow stronger. Jackson's quiet guidance and steady presence had taught her not just about ranch work, but about resilience, patience, and trust. As they stepped outside together, Emma felt a deep appreciation for the land, the animals, and the rhythm of life on the ranch. She realized that the journey was not just about physical work. It was about learning to adapt, to notice the small details, and to trust in oneself and others. Jackson led her to the pastures, explaining how to check the cattle for signs of discomfort or illness, how to move them safely, and how to work efficiently without unnecessary strain. Emma listened carefully, taking notes and observing closely. Though her side still ached, she focused on the tasks at hand, determined to learn as much as possible. Throughout the morning, Emma began to notice subtleties she had missed before. The way a cow shifted its weight when uneasy, the slight tension in a horse's muscles, or the changes in the wind that signaled weather shifts. Each observation was a small victory, a step toward understanding the land and the animals she was learning to care for. By midday, Emma's confidence had grown noticeably. She handled the horses with more ease, guided the cattle through the pastures effectively, and even managed a few tasks independently. Jackson watched her quietly, pleased by her progress. He knew that her determination and willingness to learn would carry her far on the ranch. As the sun began to set, Emma paused to take in the scene. The sky was a brilliant canvas of color, the cattle were settling in the pastures, and the ranch seemed to breathe with life and quiet order. She felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the land but to the life she was building here, one filled with challenges, learning, and moments of quiet beauty. That evening, as they returned to the farmhouse, Emma felt a sense of accomplishment. The day had been demanding, but she had faced it with determination, learned valuable lessons, and strengthened her bond of trust with Jackson. She knew that the coming days would continue to test her, but she felt prepared, capable, and ready to embrace the challenges ahead. The morning sun rose gently over the ranch, casting long golden rays across the wide pastures. Emma awoke feeling a mixture of anticipation and cautious optimism. Her side still ached slightly from the previous day's injury, but the pain had lessened considerably thanks to Jackson's careful attention and guidance. She dressed slowly, mindful of her movements, and stepped outside to feel the crisp morning air on her face. Jackson was already in the barn, checking the horses and preparing the feed. He looked up as Emma approached, giving her a small nod of encouragement. "Morning, Emma. Feeling better today?" "We'll take it easy, but there are still important tasks to get done." She had grown to trust his judgment, his skill, and the quiet confidence he carried in every action. After breakfast, they stepped outside together. The morning air was alive with sounds, the lowing of cattle, the rustle of the wind through the trees, and the occasional neigh of a horse. Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had learned to listen to the land, to observe the animals, and to respect the rhythm of life on the ranch. Every task, no matter how small, mattered in keeping the ranch functioning. Jackson led her first to the pastures where the cattle grazed. Emma moved carefully, mindful of her sore side, but eager to apply the lessons she had learned. She checked the cattle, looking for signs of discomfort or illness, and noted her observations in her notebook. Jackson followed, observing her technique, offering quiet advice and occasionally demonstrating a task more efficiently. By mid-morning, Emma felt a growing sense of confidence. She had learned to read the subtle movements of the cattle, the slight shift of weight, the twitch of an ear, the slow turn of a head, that indicated how the animals were feeling. She guided them through the pasture with care, ensuring they remained calm and cooperative. Jackson watched silently, pleased by her progress, knowing that she was becoming more capable with each passing day. After the cattle were settled, they turned their attention to the horses. Emma groomed them with steady hands, brushing their coats, checking their hooves, and feeding them carefully. She noticed how each horse responded differently to touch, voice, and movement, and she adjusted her approach accordingly. Jackson observed, occasionally offering suggestions but mostly allowing her to learn through experience. Around midday, Emma felt a twinge of discomfort in her side again. She paused, leaning against the stable wall, uncertain if she should continue. Jackson noticed immediately and approached her. "You're doing well," he said softly, "but we need to make sure this doesn't get worse. Let's take a short break. Rest is part of recovery." He spoke of harsh winters, dry summers, and unexpected challenges with the animals. Each story was filled with lessons about resilience, careful observation, and the importance of staying calm under pressure. Emma listened intently, absorbing not only the practical knowledge, but also the values that guided life on the ranch. The afternoon was spent on lighter tasks. Emma helped refill water troughs, swept the barn, and organized equipment. Each task, while less physically demanding, required attention to detail and care. Jackson provided gentle guidance, ensuring she performed each step correctly. Emma noticed how even the smallest mistakes could have consequences, and she took each instruction seriously, determined to do her best. As the sun began to set, the ranch was bathed in warm golden light. The animals settled into their resting places, the wind carried the faint scent of hay and grass, and the world seemed to slow down in the quiet beauty of the evening. Emma and Jackson finished their tasks, walking slowly across the fields, taking in the scene around them. Jackson glanced at Emma. "You've come a long way in a few days," he said. "Not just in the work, but in understanding the land and the animals. That's what being here is really about." But more importantly, she had learned the value of patience, observation, and trusting the guidance of someone experienced. Dinner was quiet and peaceful. Emma ate slowly, reflecting on the day's events and the progress she had made. Jackson spoke occasionally, sharing small tips and insights about ranch life, but mostly they enjoyed the calm and comfort of the evening. After dinner, they stepped outside to enjoy the night sky. Stars filled the heavens, shining brightly over the wide fields. The ranch was quiet now, the animals settled, and the world seemed still and serene. Emma felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the land and the animals, but to the life she was building here, filled with learning, growth, and quiet moments of reflection. Jackson looked at her. "You've done very well," he said. "The past few days were challenging, but you didn't give up. That's important. You've learned to adapt, to notice details, and to take care of both the animals and yourself. I couldn't have done it without your support." She realized that even though the work was hard and the days were long, she had discovered a strength within herself that she hadn't known existed. The next morning, Emma awoke feeling refreshed and ready to continue. Her side had healed further, and she felt stronger both physically and mentally. She dressed carefully and stepped outside, greeted by the soft light of dawn and the familiar sounds of the ranch. Jackson was already at work, checking fences and preparing the animals for the day. He glanced at Emma and nodded. "Morning," he said. "Ready to get started?" "I feel ready." As the day progressed, Emma felt a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. The lessons from the past days had taken root, giving her the ability to face challenges with patience, care, and determination. She had learned not only the practical skills of ranch life, but also the values of resilience, observation, and trust. By evening, the ranch was quiet and peaceful. The animals had settled, The sun set behind the hills and the fields glowed in the soft light. Emma and Jackson finished their tasks and walked slowly across the pasture, enjoying the calm of the evening. Jackson spoke softly. "You've grown a lot in a short time, not just in skill, but in understanding what it takes to care for this land and these animals. That's the real work of a rancher. You've embraced that fully." She lay in bed that night, listening to the sounds of the ranch, the soft breathing of the animals, the rustling of the trees, and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had faced the challenges, learned from them, and grown in ways she hadn't imagined. Emma closed her eyes, ready to rest, knowing that tomorrow would bring new lessons, new experiences, and new opportunities to grow. She had discovered not just the life of a rancher, but her own strength, resilience, and the value of trust and guidance. The ranch, with its open fields, hardworking animals, and quiet beauty, had become a place of belonging. Emma felt grateful for the experience, for Jackson's guidance, and for the lessons she had learned about patience, perseverance, and the quiet courage required to face life's challenges. As she drifted into sleep, she realized that her journey was only beginning. The days ahead would continue to test her, challenge her, and teach her more about life on the ranch. But she also knew that she was ready, stronger, and capable of embracing whatever came next.